Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. This one's pretty heavy, actually. We've got these two Reddit posts, right? And they're both from this 16-year-old girl. She's dealing with something, well, kind of tough, I guess you could say. Her 20-year-old brother, he's been crying. And, well, she wants to help. Later on, she posted this update.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. So today we're going to try to unpack all of that and really get into emotional expression, especially with men. And also, we're going to see how these little acts of kindness, they can really make a huge difference.
You know, it's interesting how the story starts. It starts with the sister, and she hears her brother, upset. But she doesn't know why. So right away, we feel what she feels, right? That worry. And it makes us want to know more.
For sure, for sure. And she doesn't just ignore it. She does something. I think it's really interesting how she goes to him. She doesn't try to force him to tell her anything. She just lets him know it's okay to talk.
What do you think about listening, like the different ways we listen? How does that affect someone when they're having a hard time? That's such a good point. We talk about listening all the time. But there's a lot to it, There's active listening, where you're really focused, you're paying attention, you're making sure you understand, you repeat back what you hear. And then, reflective listening. You're really trying to get what they're feeling, not just their words. Even little things like nodding your head, looking them in the eye. That can mean so much. It's like the 16-year-old girl, she just gets it. She knows how important it is to just be there for someone.
It's amazing, right? Like that hug she talks about, it seems like that's when everything changes. It's like he was finally allowed to let go. Men are always told to hide their feelings. It must be hard to always have to be strong.
Exactly. Men are supposed to be stoic, keep it all inside.
Mm.
But that can really hurt them. There are studies, actual studies, that show that this can cause a lot of stress, make it hard to be close to people. It can even mess with their mental health. It's sad, but the sister mentions how her brother thinks talking about feelings is pussy shit. It just shows how much we teach boys these wrong ideas.
Ugh, it's so heartbreaking. And to think, he didn't tell anyone else, not even his parents. It must be so lonely to go through something like that alone.
That's why family is so important, even when you feel like pushing them away. When he finally told his sister, someone he could trust, it seemed to help. He was then able to talk to his parents and even reach out to his friend's family. It's like that first step, being vulnerable, made everything else possible.
It's like opening a dam, right? Once he let those feelings out, he could finally start dealing with his grief. What about when people don't want to talk, though? The people on Reddit, they had some interesting ideas for that, didn't they?
Totally. Sometimes being direct isn't the way to go, especially with men who are more closed off emotionally. Some people suggested just spending time with the person, maybe doing something they enjoy, or leaving a note, something from the heart. Just letting them know you care without forcing a conversation.
I love that, leaving a note. You're there for them, but you're not pushing. It makes you think, though, how do we change things so men don't feel like they have to hide their feelings, so they can be vulnerable and see that as a good thing, not a weakness?
That's the big question, right? It's got to be a whole societal shift. We got to stop teaching boys these old-fashioned ideas and start teaching them that it's okay to show sadness, fear, even joy. And that it's okay for people to see that, to not judge them for it.
And to value emotional intelligence, not just for men, for everyone. Understanding your own feelings, being able to deal with them,
Yeah.
and understanding other people's feelings, too. That's so important for any relationship, any connection, for just feeling good.
Absolutely. And this whole story, even though it came from Reddit, it shows how much we all need connection. Look at all those comments, everyone being so kind and understanding.
I know, it's amazing. People were so impressed with the sister, how mature she was, how emotionally intelligent, and they kept saying how much she probably helped her brother. It's a good reminder that even small acts of kindness can change things. And it can spread, like a ripple effect. It can make the world a little kinder.
Speaking of kindness, one comment really stuck with me. It talked about the ministry of presence.
What's that?
It's the idea that sometimes the best thing you can do is just be there. Be present with someone who's hurting. Don't try to fix it. Don't offer advice. Just be with them.
To let them know they're not alone. It's powerful, isn't it? Just knowing someone cares.
Exactly. It takes effort, though, Instead of trying to make things better, you just focus on being there, on understanding.
And it makes you wonder, how many times have we missed those chances? Chances to just be there for someone.
Yeah.
Not judge them, not try to solve their problems.
We should all try to do that more. Be more present, more aware of how the people around us are feeling. Sometimes the best gift you can give is just listening.
It's a beautiful way to think about it. We really are all in this together.
It's crazy how this whole thing started with a brother crying in his room. It's so personal, so private. And then it just explodes. We start talking about these huge societal
I
issues.
know, right? And it's all because of his sister. It's like she just made everything change, not just for her brother, but for the whole family.
Yeah, she's like this catalyst. Just by giving him that space to talk, to let it all out, and then it's like a domino effect, you know? He
Mhm.
tells her, then he's able to tell his parents, and then he even reaches out to his friend's family. That first step, being vulnerable, it made everything else possible.
Makes you think. How many times are we missing out on real connections? Because we're scared to be vulnerable ourselves.
All the time, probably. We're taught to be tough, to not need anyone, but that's not real strength, you know? Real strength is knowing when you need help
Yeah.
and not being afraid to ask for it.
Yeah, and it's not just about asking for help. It's about being there for others, even when you don't know what to say. Remember all those suggestions on Reddit about different ways to support someone? I thought those were so insightful.
Me too, totally. Like the one about doing something together, you know? Going for a walk, watching a movie, just being there, doing something normal. That can be really comforting, especially when someone's grieving.
It takes the pressure off, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to have this big emotional conversation right away.
Yeah.
They can deal with their feelings at their own pace.
Exactly. And you have to be aware of what they need. Not everyone's comfortable talking about their feelings, especially men. They're told to bottle everything up.
Which brings us back to that idea about leaving a note. That was such a good one. You're showing you care, but you're not forcing anything.
It's like this quiet way of saying, hey, I'm here for you. It gives
Yeah.
them the space and time to think, to feel, and to decide if they want to talk when they're ready.
It's like planting a seed of hope,
Yeah.
letting them know they're not alone.
Yeah, and sometimes that's all it takes. Just that little spark to start the healing process.
You know, what's interesting about the brother's story is how telling his family brought them all closer. His dad buying those F1 tickets, that says a lot. It's like there's this new level of understanding between them.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Even though it came from pain, from grief, it brought them together. Sometimes you need that vulnerability to break down those walls and really connect.
That's like the brother opening up. It gave his dad permission to open up too, to show his love and support in a way he maybe couldn't before.
Wow, yeah. That's really insightful. It shows how powerful it can be. When someone is brave enough to be vulnerable, it can change the whole dynamic of a family.
Makes you wonder how many families would be better off if they could just talk about their feelings more openly.
So many, I bet. We avoid hard conversations, you know? We're afraid of conflict, of making things uncomfortable. But those conversations are so important. They can make our relationship stronger, more loving.
It's about choosing courage over comfort, even when it's scary. And speaking of courage, can we talk about the Reddit comments? All that support the sister got. It's amazing how her story touched so many people.
It shows you how much we all crave connection, you know,
Mhm.
that need to belong, to be understood. Even online, we want empathy. We want to feel like we're not alone. And her story really hit home for people.
It's like the whole internet was giving her a hug, offering advice, words of encouragement.
It wasn't just about supporting her, though. It was about reminding everyone to be there for each other, to pay attention to how the people around us are feeling.
Yeah, the comments were like this space, where people could share their own experiences, offer advice, just remind each other that we're all in this together.
It's heartwarming, isn't it? Even in this crazy online world, kindness wins.
It really does. It reminds you that everyone has a story, everyone's going through something. And sometimes just a little bit of kindness can make a world of difference.
Yeah, it's a good reminder. We don't always realize how much impact we have. But even the smallest things, when they come from a good place, from empathy, from compassion, they can have a ripple effect, make the world a better place.
It's a powerful message. And I think it's the perfect way to move into the last part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
As we're wrapping this up, I keep thinking about that idea, indirect support. All those comments on Reddit, they really stuck with me. Especially when it comes to helping guys, men who have trouble, showing their feelings.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Sometimes going head on, it's not the best way. It's those little things, the subtle things that can make a real difference.
Right, exactly. Like giving a hug, doing something together,
Yeah.
even just writing a little note. It's about showing you care without making them feel pressured,
It takes a lot of awareness, I think. Emotional intelligence, being able to read the situation, know what they need. Not everyone expresses themselves the same way.
It's true. It feels like things are changing, though, don't you think? Like we're starting to understand emotional intelligence better, and we're realizing that it's okay to be vulnerable, to let those feelings out.
I agree totally. We're finally challenging those old ideas, especially for men. It's not weak to show your emotions. It's actually really strong. It's being real.
This whole story It shows how powerful kindness can be. Like when the sister got her brother snacks, just being there for him. It seemed like such a small thing, but it made a huge difference. He was able to open up, to share what he was going through, and that's how he started healing.
We don't need big, dramatic gestures all the time. Sometimes it's the little things, the simple acts of love and compassion, listening to someone, a hug, a note. Those things can really touch someone's heart.
We should all try to do that more. Be more mindful. Create those connections. Let the people we care about know that we're there for them, that they're not alone.
Exactly. We need to create a world where it's okay to be vulnerable, where we see that as a strength, not a weakness, where we support each other through tough times with love and understanding.
That's a great way to put it. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. It's been amazing exploring these Reddit posts with you, talking about human emotions, about connection, about how complicated it all is. Remember, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is just be there. Listen, give a hug, share a moment of quiet together.
May we all be that source of comfort for the people in our lives.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to subscribe to Voices of the Soul, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube at Shauna Pelage for more conversations like this one. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.